Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carvel Community Meeting. Today's date is August 24th, 2022. I'm Nancy Lancaster. I'm the Community Manager for Carvel. Welcome everybody that is here live participating in this meeting today. For those that aren't here today, just a reminder, we meet every second and fourth Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's a great way for you to come and meet members of the community, meet the maintainers. You can provide any items you wish to discuss, whether that be like a feature request or if you're having trouble with getting started with any of the Carvel tools, we can help in live situations here. And if you aren't able to join us at any of these meetings, you can find us in the Carvel channel in the Kubernetes Slack workspace. You can email us. You can find us in GitHub with any of our project repos, or you can find us on Twitter at Carvel_dev. If at any point you are interacting with anybody in the community, any of the maintainers, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct, which is listed out here and throughout all of our repos. For those that are using any of the Carvel tools, we want to know more details about how you're using the tools. So we've created this pinned issue, and it has a list of details we ask that you provide in a comment put on this issue itself. It just helps the maintainers understand better about what use cases are out there that people have for using Carvel. And it also helps the community understand a bit better about how they may also be able to use the Carvel tools. And so really appreciate providing this information, whether it's like a short snippet of your use case. If you want to go into details, that'd be great. Optionally, you can add your logo for any organization you're representing, and we'll get that added to the adopters file here. And then for those that are on the call today, just a reminder, optionally, we ask that you put your name and any organization that you're representing in the attendees list here. Okay, moving on to announcements. So since last meeting, we did Carvel in July. I know in the meeting we kind of merged it live and announced it then, but just want to make sure everybody gets their eyes on what the team worked on in July here. And that was written by Joe Kimmel with help from the rest of the Carvel team. Another post that we had that we just actually published yesterday is by Ollie Hughes. He is not one of the maintainers, but he does use Carvel and did a blog post on development workflow with Tilt and Carvel. So I'm actually going to let Ollie give a little summary of what this blog post is about.
Thanks, Nancy. So this blog post came out of really our team sort of solving a problem. So we're already using Carvel to build our images and to create our YAML and deploy to Kubernetes. One thing that we really wanted is that we didn't have to sort of run a script every time we made a code change. And that's where Tilt comes in. So Tilt is a tool that will sort of sit and watch for any changes on your local file system. And when it detects a change, it will read this configuration file, and then it will go off and it will redeploy your changes like a sort of a hot deploy. So one of the good things about Tilt is that you can basically write code. You can use sort of code as configuration, almost like you do with YTT. It uses this Starlark based syntax, which is quite similar to Python. So it's really quite flexible in how you describe how your app's built and deployed. So, and what that means is that you can integrate it with other tooling such as kapp, YTT, and KBLD. So I think it's a really useful tool to use if you're doing this kind of make a code change, run your E2E tests, and not worry about deploying the code. So it's definitely been something our teams appreciated quite a lot, and hopefully the blog post will be useful for the community as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ollie, for sharing that. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Okay, yeah, just encourage you to go read this blog post and let us know what you think. Thank you so much, Ollie, for putting that together. You did it pretty quickly and really appreciate it.
No problem.
As far as upcoming content, just stay tuned for that. We have a few things in the works there. We have some Tanzu related live like Tanzu TV stuff, and like something between like keyboard and the chair. So once that have a link for that, I'll put it in here. And as far as content goes, it's not limited to just the maintainers. As you can see with Ollie, we ask that anybody in the community, if they have something to share about how they're using Carvel, we would love for you to create some sort of, if you have a video, if you have a blog post, or if you're doing a workshop or a talk or anything like that, we want to know about it. So you can sign up in this little doc here and put your name, topic that you're going to cover, and then what kind of medium that you're going to be delivering that topic in. And then if you have a Twitter handle and you want us to tag you in it when we tweet it out, you just put that here. If you're uncomfortable with putting information here, you can also just send us a DM or find us in Slack and let us know that you got something in the works that you want to share, and we'll figure out how the best way is to promote it and make sure everybody in the community knows what you're going to be talking about. Moving on to releases. So we have kapp-controller 0.40 that was released just last week, which is a really big release that we did. But I will actually let one of the maintainers talk a little bit more about it. So I don't know if Sumik or...
Oh, so sorry, it's us this time. So we've been talking about the def commands and the commands which help package authors sort of get up and running with Carvel tools faster for a while. And this release finally has like an alpha version of those commands that we're putting out. And it'll be super great if you'll actually sort of try it out, play around with it, and give us any feedback that you might have. Yeah, that's all about it, because I think we've talked a lot about those commands in the community of this one as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, right now it's just the alpha release. So please give it a try. Let us know what you think. In the blog post itself, it gives you a few details about how you can share your feedback. And I think we're expecting GA release in October. So got some time. All right, moving on to image package.
Hey, that's me again. So I heard from somebody in Slack that this was the most exciting image package release of August, and I do believe that. So what do we have here? So this has basically three huge things. So first of all, do you remember when you're downloading anything, when you're copying an image from one registry to another, then you have like this awesome progress bar there. So there was someone that was using image package as a library, and they're like, oh, we would like to have that as part of our push when we're pushing images as well. So they contributed, Shahir there contributed that piece of code that made this possible. So this is currently not enabled by default on image package. We can, if we have people wanting to see a progress bar going when they're doing the push for their images. But currently it is all available on via API integration. Talking about API, what else have we done this like couple of months back? We introduced an API on image package. So now it's possible for you to pull images or bundles via an API that we put it to a side. And you can see it on the package. There's a link there if you want to get a little bit more acquainted with. This is our first prototype of an API for image package. Currently, the only available functionality is going to be pull, but I already saw that we want tag as well because of something that we're working on in Vendir. So eventually tag will be the second API endpoint that we'll have there. We're trying to create this API to see when people are including image package as a library, they can just use that particular package and then do all the things there. if you have some feedback, just let us know. If there's anything that's strange, let us know. We will look into it. And this API was added to enable the feature that you see there, where now image package can tell you if a particular image that you're pulling is cacheable or not. And this API now provides you like a status that you can just, when invoking image package, you can just look at it and see, oh, this is cacheable, I can cache it. And this will make much more sense when we talk about the on-flight work that we're doing with Vindy right now. And I think that was it.
Awesome. Thank you, Joao. Any questions, comments? Okay. Moving on to CAP 0.52. I believe this was released probably like the day after we had our last meeting.
Yeah, I think I can add something on about that. So one of the new features that shipped were a flag which lets you disable default label scoping rules. So CAP till before this release, what it used to do was always add labels and label selectors to deployments and services, which are specific to a particular app. So if you have two apps deployed on the same namespace in the same cluster, which use the same labels and label selectors, they still wouldn't interfere with each other. And yeah, they would function as separate units, but we realized that it's probably not so smart to have it enabled by default. So this flag actually lets users disable this feature, and it helps out in cases where users are deploying a part of the resources using CAP. And we sort of do plan on easing off and eventually making this feature disabled by default. And yeah, so that's, I think, the headliner, I would say. And the other one's actually a flag that's consumed by kapp-controller to grab some metadata when they do a CAP deploy. I remember we talked about this in the previous community meeting, but there was a certain case that was missed, which we put out in this release. I don't recall exactly what, but yeah, that's what went in.
Great, thanks, Sumik. Any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I would like to add something what Soumik is saying. App metadata file output. The fix was like when CAP deploy was failing, it was not able to store this metadata to the file. So with the new fixes, it will be able to store the metadata if the CAP deploy fails. That's it.
All right. Thank you for that add-on. Okay. Moving on to, we have a guest here today. His name is Natan Yellen, and he's with Robusta Dev. They've been doing 100 Kubernetes tools initiative, and we have been engaging with them and starting to do Carvel tools as part of their initiative, starting with YTT. But I will let Natan give a little bit of overview about what Robusta is and what this 100 Kubernetes tools initiative is.
Hi, so first of all, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure also working with John on this. I just had a ton of fun doing it. So I'm one of the co-founders at Robusta, and among other things, I lead our DevRel, developer relations. And just a word about Robusta. So what we do is we do context gathering for Prometheus alerts and Kubernetes alerts. We take your alerts, we show you what they mean, why they're happening, and then give you a button to fix them. So the goal is really that you have like one place you get an alert, the alert is self-explanatory, you always know what the next step is, and so on. Now, as part of the work that we do around that, then we do a lot of work just explaining and educating about Kubernetes. So the original idea for the 100 Kubernetes tool series was that I would do one tool a day and then do a really short video about that and just show you how to use a specific tool. And really try and focus not on like, how do I use this tool, but on the why. Why should you care? Because there are so many tools out there. Why is this tool worth your attention? And then things got very busy with Robusta, so I ended up cutting back from one tool a day to just one tool whenever I had the chance to record a video. But I recently connected with the Carvel team and then spoke to John, and we decided to start with YTT, and we want to continue and do some additional videos. We're thinking of maybe doing CAP next.
That's really cool. I love this initiative. It's super helpful for like the Kubernetes community at large, and there's just so many tools out there. So I don't know, it's just really great to see y'all taking this on. How many have you done so far?
I need to check. I think somewhere in the range of 10 or so. If I had to guess, I have a bunch that, I have a bunch that I recorded and haven't released either. And then in some of them, I actually recorded before the one with John. So I was saying that like, this is video number, whatever. But I don't think I know this. So what I do, most of the work I actually do for DevRel is on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on like our blog and Reddit and a lot of that stuff. So the YouTube side is like the more neglected side, so to speak. So I think I also want to see about repurposing some of the content we created around this into a blog post and then pushing it out in other mediums. We got a decent amount of views. I think there was over 300 views on the video. If I package that up also in the format of a LinkedIn post and the blog post, then we'll get far more eyeballs, I think, than that.
Yeah, I like that. I like repurposing videos because so many people learn in so many different ways. So it kind of helps others digest the information in a different way. So
yeah. And it just was a lot of fun to do. I mean, John, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, the main thing is what I like about the series so far is that they're high signal and they're short. So it's not a long investment. They're like less than 10 minutes, unless somebody's prattling on.
That was me too.
I don't know. But yeah, so like, you know, whether it's like how to quickly get an example, how to get help when you're editing, how to like, you know, quickly do a port forwarding, like there's these lots of little things that, you know, if you're dealing with Kubernetes day to day, these are great little tips to just level up a little bit. It's that 1% thing, like you just keep getting better with little investments. Like this is a good spigot to grab a bunch of that from. And the other thing that just from like the recording that Natan and I did together, when we were preparing for that, one of the neat things about it is like we really zeroed in on what's going to be useful. It wasn't about like, hey, let's show off YTT. It was like, hey, here's a problem. Like, can we show a practical solution to that? So I just love that that's the bent of the whole thing. It's really about giving back to the community. So I thought that was cool. Digging it.
Yeah. That's why we chose, I think John chose like, okay, we're going to focus specifically on the Helm use case and not on the broader use cases for YTT to really connect to like a specific acute pain point. Like we see this all the time, also with alerting, like, which is the main space we operate in. Like if it, in a way, it has to be easier to like fix an alert or it has to be easier to take a new tool and to use it, then it has to be to just do nothing and continue like going the way you are. Because the default is always to do nothing. So like you have to make it easier for people to like accidentally fall into using your tool and then slip than to just go on and keep on doing it the old way. So that's why like I think it was really good also that John like jumped in and showed like the hands-on example with the YAML and showing how you do with YTT, and then like, oh, it's not so scary after all. And oh, this is the use case where I want to use this.
yeah, very cool. Any questions or comments further for Natan?
I'll just say I'm going to be at KubeCon North America. I mean, a lot of the Robusta team will be. So everyone stop by and say hi.
Oh, awesome.
We're going to do something crazy.
I'm excited. I'm going myself.
Yeah.
Looking forward to meeting you in person.
Do you have a booth at?
Yeah, we have a booth and we're going to try and be the best booth at KubeCon.
Oh, awesome.
I can't spoil what we're doing.
All right. Well, got me excited. So that's awesome. Can't wait to see it.
I think you met the second best booth. Do we have a booth?
Sorry guys, but I can't share what we're doing because I don't have any ideas.
All right, we'll just have to up our game.
We'll send spies, figure out what this whole booth is.
Oh, it'll be obvious.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing everything about Robusta. I'm so glad you were able to make it and tell us all about it.
My pleasure.
Okay, moving to status updates. Anything going on with the project roadmap to point out for this meeting since the last meeting?
I don't think there's anything specific. Continuing along the same themes of improving the package author experience and providing stability and delight. So please, give this a review. Let us know if you have any feedback or ideas of future items to add.
Well, thanks, Aaron. All right, on to what the team has been working on. Part of the backlog, image package, Joao.
You seem to be hardware muted, Joao. Can't hear you. He's got one of those fancy mics. That's what's going on.
Should we come back to you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
My God, it's like technology, right? Okay, so image package. What have we been doing? So it's basically tied to the release. We finished up the stories related to caching. So now we are able to tell whoever calls us as an API using the brand new API if a particular image that is being pulled, it is cacheable or not. There are some rules for that. You can take a look and see for yourself. And I think that's that.
Great. Thanks, Joao. Any questions for Joao? Okay, moving on to vendor.
Oh my God, it's João again. Woo! So why did we implement this feature and image package? Because Vendir will now have a feature that will be able to save into a particular folder that you provide to it cached images. So when you're doing a Vendir sync, you'll be able to just provide as an environment variable the place where you want to save your images, and it will save it for you. And the next time that you are going to pull, of course, if the image is cacheable, and if it is able to, if it is cached, then the next time that you do a Vendir sync, it will not go to the registry. It will just go to the cache, and it will bring it back for you. So this is the functionality that we are working actively now. There's a PR for it already, so we might be in the midst of getting this out somewhere in the before the next community meeting.
Great. Any questions for Joao? Okay, moving on to kapp-controller.
You wouldn't believe this, but this is me again. Okay, so what is this? This is like the icing on the cake, right? Like kapp-controller currently has this this behavior where every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's going to go to the registry, get the new configuration from the registry, and reapply all your app CRs and so on. So what we're trying to prevent here is that it goes to the registry again every time, like every 10 minutes. Just go there, go. So how are we doing this? By ensuring that Vendir can cache images for you. That's awesome, right? It's like the work just falls in place altogether. So we started working on this story, and I think that's more or less self-explanatory. So after this story, there's still one more story that we need to do to make sure that cache is cleaned after the FCRs are removed. And we should be done with a much more resilient kapp-controller. And that's it from me. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the cache man?
Just one question. What do you mean by an image is cacheable? What would be the general guidelines of what makes it cacheable or not?
Okay, I was expecting that question. And was I ready for it? Not really, because it's a little bit complicated, right? So there are multiple scenarios. The first scenario is if you're trying to get an image using a SHA, then that image is cacheable. If you're trying, does it make sense? Because it cannot be changed, so we can cache it. If you're trying to get an image, you're trying to pull an image using a tag, we cannot cache the image for you, unfortunately, because it might change. And we want to make sure that you go to the registry every time because changes might happen. So now comes the more complicated side of the world, image package bundles. So a bundle is cacheable if you reference it by SHA and all the images associated with that bundle are present in the same repository as the bundle.
So
Okay.
it needs to have been copied. We need to do
has
an
been
image
copied.
package copy first
Exactly.
of the package repository. In it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the only case where image package bundles are cacheable. We do believe that this is going to be the bulk of it, because like especially if you're working in an air-gapped environment that doesn't have access to the internet, you'd have copied all the images to the same repo, or you'd have some sort of like a proxy cache that will put the images on your internal network, and then kapp-controller will be able to work with that.
All right. Awesome. And if one image is not cacheable, that makes the entire package not cacheable.
It makes if the entire package, yes, because you have only one referencing.
Well,
like
no,
one
if you
image,
had a
right?
bundle that was referencing 10 images and 9 of them are referenced by SHA, but one is referenced by tag.
Okay, so that's a good question, and let me try to explain what we're caching. So we're caching the bundle OCI image itself, not the bundle, not the images associated with the bundle.
Okay.
So that's what we're
Okay.
caching. We're caching just the configuration.
And that's on a per package level, not necessarily package repository level.
Exactly.
So we could have a package repository by tag, which has 33 packages, just as an example of something that exists out there. And all of those would be by SHA, which would make it then completely cacheable.
If you have like each package will be cacheable,
Right.
but the
If it was
package repo is not, because you usually would reference it by tag, right? Like, so that would be it. Yes, correct.
Okay. Awesome.
I promise I will not talk anymore this meeting. To you, Nancy.
Thanks, Mr. Cashman. That's your name now. And thanks, Scott, for your question. Before we move on, any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. Time for some K control stuff. Sumik or?
Yeah, I think I can talk about that. I'm still getting used to calling it K control actually. So to start off with, I actually like to thank Graham, because when we put out the alpha release, Graham actually helped us get a lot of feedback, which would help new users to get started with KCTRL more easily. And yeah, so we have been working on that and we have most of it set in place. I'll probably add that in the list later. And as to what we are focusing on now, the first one, ironing out how the experience looks like for someone in an air gap environment, it's specific to dev deploy. So when we are talking to some users about how they see KCTRL dev fitting into their workflow, they were curious about how they can sort of test packages in their workflows or even manually while using KCTRL dev. And one case a user mentioned with that, I think it was Robert, they said that it would be great if KCTRL sort of smartly image package copies all of the dependent images into the air-gapped environment while testing. And so, yeah, that's something we're exploring right now. And the other two items are something we have a bit more clarity on. So KCTRL package init generates some boilerplate, which helps KCTRL dev to help you iterate over the packages and also helps KCTRL release a version of that package. And the way it's set up right now, there are two app specs, and we are trying to sort of hammer out what the user experience is like if the two app specs in the resources that are created by init start to differ. And next is it's sort of about how KCTRL behaves when a user is trying to wrap a Helm chart into a Carvel package. So as of today, if the user supplies some YTD configuration, which has a value schema present there, we automatically generate an open API schema for them. However, we are sort of figuring out if it's possible to do the same for Helm charts for folks who want to sort of make sure whatever was created by the Helm chart persists on the cluster periodically. So yeah, that's what we're working on the KCTRL side mainly. And we are looking forward to more feedback. So that's that.
All right, thanks, Sumik. Any questions on this? Okay. And moving on to Kat.
Yeah, so we're still working on a lot of stuff we talked about last time. And in addition to that, a user recently pointed out that our bash completion is not up to the mark in some places. So we'll be probably pulling that in as well and working on fixing that.
Any questions for Sumik? All right, moving on to YTT.
Yeah, you know me. So Varsha and I have been wrapping up our usability testing. We really appreciate the time and attention that folks have brought to this effort. We've gotten a ton of feedback about things that are working well, ideas for like how to introduce the feature, and even some interactions between different features that are currently like high friction. We're going to be addressing that feedback before we go to GA. That's the whole point of this, was to identify those things so that we can have a solid API before we commit to this. There's a number of folks that are in the room that have helped out with that. Really appreciate your time on that. And there are a couple of sessions that we're doing that are like previews with folks. So if you're seeing this, you're like, wait, I've got a session scheduled. Don't worry, we haven't canceled on you. So once we pull in the essentials of those changes, we will be GAing validations for your data values. So we're super excited about that upcoming release. And the other thing that we've been working on this last week is really starting to dig into schemes in which people, when they start to have a significant amount of YTT code, like how do you test that? How do you unit test it? How do you end-to-end test it? And within VMware, there's a lot of using Carvel stuff. And so there's some folks that have been doing that kind of thing, been working with them and looking to bring that forward into our overall suite. So watch this space for more details. The other side of that is if you have found that you needed to get to that, if you got to that point where you needed to do some testing, we'd sure love to hear from you about approaches that you're taking. So reach out to us on the Slack channel, or you can DM me directly at jtigger on Kubernetes Slack.
Thanks, John. And when are you expecting this release to happen with the?
Yeah, we're saying sometime in September. We're hoping like the earlier part. But it's more event time. It's like when we can address those issues and get those released.
Okay, cool. Any questions before we move on to the demo? I'm sure we'll have some questions during and after demo too. All right, well, let's get this party started.
Yeah, hi everyone. So today I'll be giving demo for schema validations. I've got it recorded, so we will have some time for question answers at the end of the recording. I'll just share my screen now. Let's get started. Are you able to see the screen? And let me see if the audio is working. Hello, everyone. Yeah, good. As we all know, Carvel is introducing a new feature in its tool, YTT. So the new feature is called Schema Validations. So let's get started with the demo. What are validations? YTT is introducing validations, which are some constraints that you can define on data values via annotations. Validation will ensure that data value is in expected range of values. So in the beginning, we have YAML. Let's see, we have this deployment.yaml, and we may have lots of YAML. You want to be able to package that up and have somebody else use it. So let's say, first thing we want to do is extract the values from this YAML. For that, we will add load data value, load YTT data. And we'll replace this value with a variable, say data value instances. Now we'll have a values file which will have these instances defined. And so let's see, my deployment.yaml shows me data values instances, and my values.yaml shows instances as 5. Now let me run this in YTT, and I got the replicas as 5 from data values 5. Cool. So here what we get is output with a new value that is rendered from data values 5. Now here we are templating, but let's say someone came and made a mistake of giving value type wrong. So let's see, vim values.yaml, and here instead of number 5, I give 5. Let's see what happens. So my YAML generated shows me replicas as 5. So wow, this is well-formed YAML, but this is not a valid configuration for deployment. And this is going to give you a problem at the time of deployment. No big deal if it is simple deployment, but what if it's part of larger set of resources? That's a problem, and you want to find it sooner. So for this, we came up with schema. In schema, we declare variables, we give default values, and we infer type from default. So let's see, I have a schema file over here, and it gives the data value schema with instances 5. Now what happens here, when I include this schema file in my YTT invocation, the value of instances is automatically gets inferred. So here in schema, because it is given as integer, now I'm getting expected integer error. This is how schema checks for types and tells us expected integer. Okay, but now instead of giving us the entire YAML, we got error message, and that's like pulling the error towards left, trying to avoid going through half succeeded deployments to find out where the error is. So now type safety is what schema gave us. But now let's see, Let's update the value back to 5. And now this is our valid YAML, which is also type safe. But let's say there is a requirement that your system cannot perform well with less number of resources. Say you need minimum of 10 instances, and then you go and update in Schema YAML that we need at least 10 instances. So what happens? Does our system allow? No, it still replaces the data value with 5, even though we declared a default value in Schema as 10. So in that case, how do we add this kind of constraint where I want user to provide minimum of 10 instances? So this is where validations come into picture. They help improve the user's experience by catching obvious configuration errors before deployment. That's pulling the error towards left. Now you will do this with validations in Schema file. So let's see. Currently this feature is available as experimental. So we'll first ensure that we have correct version and turn on the validations. So to do it, so we have this export line to add, and this make sure our experimentation is white key experiment validation is set. And then we'll check the version, YTT version, sorry, version 0.42. Now this experiment is enabled. Now let's see, let's add the constraint here. How to add this constraint? Bin schema.yaml and just add one line over here. Schema validation annotation min equal to 10. And now when I run this, it gives me error that one or more data values were invalid, instances requires a value greater or equal to 10. Fail 5. So 5 is less than 10, and which is the value which we gave in values.yaml. So instances 5. So let's go and update these instances to set 11. And let's see if it runs. Boom, this all works. So we got valid YAML, we got well-formed YAML, we got valid type checked YAML, and extending validity to satisfy your own set of constraints. Let's try one more example. So let's see. As an author, you may have a requirement of having a username and password present for a particular storage. I can provide a default, but I want user to set username and password values. How do you make them do that? Write a validation that you know will fail with a default value. For that, we will add this kind of validation. So add schema validation min len equal to 1. So when I run this, you get all kinds of validation errors that are present in the schema and values file. So this first one we already saw that 5 is less than 10 and it's not allowing here. Instances requires value greater than or equal to 10. Another username, password, and for username next set of username passwords. So couple of things to notice here. We learn about all the problems at once and not like one after other. And this is forcing user to specify value. So let's add the values in values.yaml. Vim values.yaml instances. Let's add few things here. With storage, and so AWS and GCS, I added few usernames and passwords, and let's see how it works now. I don't have a deployment file, so I don't know here. schema and data value. So it tells me now instances require value greater than equal to 10. That was the earlier error, but the other error where we need username and password length, minimum length 1 is gone. So let me add instances 2. I added few instances to 15 storage, AWS and username with some username and passwords. So in that case, so now this is working. Now, if say we have some default values are null, say AWS and GCS, both are null. And what if you want to be able to say that at least one of them not null? You need to specify exactly one of them. For this, we have another type of validation rule out of the box, which is one not null. So let's try that. So I have this schema.yaml, which has this storage, AWS and GCS with schema nullable added, because what if user gives both of them, AWS and GCS, null, and like they are nullable values, but we want to add a constraint that only at least one of them should be not null. So let's see what's in the values file. Values.yaml. So here we have not provided any value for AWS and GCS. And let's see then what error current YTT schema will give. So it will say the AWS and GCS both are null. Now how to add that constraint that we want at least one of them not null. So we have one more validation to add here in schema.yaml. Just add it here. So then one not null from AWS and GCS. Let's see what. So with this validation, it says one or more data values were invalid. Storage requires exactly one child not null. Check all values are null here. And then when we add again, so when we add those values again back, say, let's see, I add username and password. Let's see what it does. Now it gives me the earlier error, which is min length, but now it knows that one of the storage types has received its value. So username and password is there available. And that's why this error is not there. But now we have this constraint that the user has to have some username and password values present. We get this error, and to fix this error, we add ABC. That's it. So this is how schema validations work. And so we have other thing that we have is with this schema validation feature, we have few documentation that is on the website. There is a YTT validations preview blog post that you can go through. And also we have created a cheat sheet for you. Let me share that screen. So here we go. Here we have the schema validation documentation on YTT website. You go here, schema validation. It shows us the out-of-the-box rules and some details about it. Few examples, out-of-the-box assertion rules and custom assertion-based rules. This is the preview of YTT validation blog post by John. And this is the validations cheat sheet that John and I prepared. This gives you various use cases what kind of validation rules you can apply, like mean, mean length, not null, and all of these, and their respective syntax along with examples. So for example, we have already seen few of them, and then there is a one-off that can be used for enumeration, one not null that we already saw, which is for exactly one not null. So when null skip validations, these are validations over nullables. So whenever a node is annotated with @schema nullable, then its default value is null. And author may opt to short circuit validations when the actual value is null, using this rule when null skip equal to true. And the last one we are seeing today is conditionally run validations. So let me open my terminal window again, and I have this schema.yaml, which has this conditional validation added. So basically, isLoad balancer. So when isLoad balancer is called, if there is a type called load balancer, then the name must be given. That's my custom rule I want to add. So the name must be given is satisfied using assert mean length 1, and we are checking if name is present. So let's see what's in the values file. Right now I don't have here name, and so when I run this, I get this kind of error. One or more data values are invalid. Service requires name must be given. This is the custom message, and fail length of 0 is less than 1. So when I add some name over here, this validation works and the value is rendered. So yeah, these are some of the rules that schema validation adds out of the box, and there are certain custom rules you can add to using Lambda functions. And yeah, so that's it for today. Let us know if you have any questions. We are reachable through Slack channel as well as in the community meetings. See you later then. Thank you.
Awesome job, Varsha.
Thank
That
you.
was so good. We have 2 minutes left, so not a whole lot of time left for discussion, but if anybody has any questions for the YTT team or any comments.
I have a really quick question. So if we define the schema like that, will we also, does this reflect on data value schema inspect as well? Like this, the open API schema generated with all these validations?
Not yet. It's on the roadmap. Great question.
Is there a way to when this becomes GA, will there be a global way to disable schemas? For example, a package author decided to put in schemas I really don't like, or validations I really don't believe in.
Yep, there's a global flag to disable it entirely.
Okay, so in the app CR, we could add in that flag, basically.
That's right.
Say, yay, no validations.
Yeah,
Yay.
no, thank you. I know what I'm doing. And there are
I
cases,
know
I
what I'm
mean,
doing, even though I didn't write the software, and exactly, right.
right, exactly. It's this, I mean, that's a beautiful DevOps moment, right? Because it's a collaboration, it's an intersection of understanding. And so you do your best as a package author, but like that may not be the right thing for them.
Right, but at least there is an escape hatch until a fix were made in a package or whatnot. There is an escape hatch for the end user to test things, I would say, at least, that it
Yep.
works.
That's it.
Awesome.
Okay, any other questions? I know we're at time, so if you do have any questions or comments further, you can find us in Slack, or you can send us an email, or feel free to add comments to any of the issues associated with this. With that, thank you all for joining today. It's such a pleasure having such a large group join, and all the folks that participated. Really appreciate you, your engagement here. And for those that are watching from home, we encourage you to come join us live, and we'd love to meet you and hear about how you're using the Carvel tools. So for that, thank you everyone, and have a good day.